Well, welcome back. We're going to do part 2 of who really owns your gold, plus a little alternate topics and a photo display. I think this is the first book I've made 2 videos, part 1 and part 2, because it's just so important. And the first part had some meat to it. And the second part has a lot more. So with that said, where we left off was, unfortunately, the sponsorship and passage of the illegal, not properly ratified by the requisite number of states, Federal Reserve Act of 1913 by the House of Rothschild and their U.S. agents, all inimical to the United States, virtually guaranteed that the dollar again would never be protected by sufficient reserves of gold, which were and still are being leveraged more than 10 to 1 by the sphere of influence. Who is the sphere of influence? Anyways, it's gotten ugly as we, the people, have slowly awakened to the fact that their elected representatives are not representing them. And as I keep telling you, I highlight issues in the book. After I read the book, you can see all my tabs. And so, it's gotten ugly as we, the people, have slowly awakened to the fact that their elected representatives are not representing them. The antitrust laws is one issue. Where there's, our representatives are supposed to make sure things are fair in this country, and corporations exist to serve the people. It's a privilege for them to have a corporation, but they bypassed all that and took over our politicians and shipped all the manufacturing companies to China and services to India and other places in the world, and basically sold us out for the almighty dollar, and which they traded to gold, and then they hoard the golds in vaults all over the world. And basically, then they use the United States and our young people for wars. All of this they build to us while they're building their world empire. Anyways, the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 strictly forbids the use of any members of the U.S. military as law enforcement officials on non-federal property, although members of the U.S. military have been used to kill Americans in the past. Witness U.S. Army snipers, TDY, temporary duty, to the CIA, participating in the assassination of President John Kennedy in 1963. This is page 45 of this book. I do book reviews. I read the books and I report to you. A U.S. Army sniper, TDY to CIA, killed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. U.S. military operatives killed David Koresh and his followers outside Waco, Texas in 1993. And then murdered several federal agents who knew too much. Alright, the current administration avoided the issue of using military forces in the civilian police capacity by signing a secret agreement with Canada on February 14, 2008, the Canadian-U.S. Civil Assistance Plan, CAP. The agreement allows Canadian troops to assist U.S. law enforcement during civil unrest. The Canadian government may also summon the U.S. military for assistance during similar actions on Canadian soil. So they bypassed the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, which said our military can't be used against us. by creating this treaty or agreement with Canada that if the president and have any problems with the people, that the Canadian troops could come in and corral us, imprison us, fight us, shoot us. And recently, if you look this up on the internet, apparently similar agreements have been made with Russia and China because they're having exercises all over the United States, as reported by alternate news. Look it up. So you have to say, what's with this Ukraine issue and these China issues? Remember, we, the American people, are used to living decent lives, which are a little expensive compared to slavery. And that's why they moved the jobs, because they could make more money. They did not care about us. And there goes the antitrust laws, that are supposed to balance things and not have things rigged and fixed. But now, we have big marts, shopping centers and depots, and all the small businessmen and all these smaller businesses are now out of business, hence putting all the power of our reality into the hands of the elite few. Shortly before World War II, the first sphere of influence agent in the White House, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, abolished the gold standard, thus permitting them to float the U.S. dollar on a cushion of thin foul air on April 1933. Well, they had to do that because they needed an unlimited amount of money to go fight World War II, which had nothing to do with the U.S. people or many other people in the world, or even the German people or the English people or French. It had to do with the people who ran those countries vying for power. So the German nation was, recovering after World War I under very desperate situations. That's what enabled Hitler to get in power. And there were probably a lot of money to be made in the munitions and ammunition and all the war activities. Oh, these insidious people. What do they do? Without the so-called gold standard, which, by the way, has always been controlled by this first sphere of influence, the very wolves then began calling in all gold. They had Roosevelt make it illegal to own gold under Executive Order 6102 and 6260. Those who complied reluctantly surrendered their gold for worthless dollars. No one really knows how much gold was confiscated during the time from April 5, 1933 to 1974, when President Gerald Ford revoked 6260. Anyways, money will soon become worthless during a period of hyperinflation and great economical calamity. Why? The U.S. dollar will be recalled by the Treasury and replaced with a new form of currency, which has already been designed and is now being prepared for formal introduction to the public. And I suspect it's going to be like a debit card or some kind of scanning device, and you'll get something or tattooed on your right hand or your forehead, just like the Bible says. And the United States is a corporation, a registered corporation, owned by the shareholders. They did away with the Constitution in 1800 something. Look it up on the internet. Anyways, we're not shareholders. There are an elite few who are shareholders. We are assets, just like cows are to a farmer. This is what they think. So there's so many of us in the computer age, they want to register and tag everybody and manage their affairs more smartly. So you're nothing more than a robot, a worker to them, an asset to them. So they think. Where did all that confiscated gold go? In 1933, President Roosevelt, remember this is the Great Depression going on, caused by the bankers around 1929, right up to the beginning of World War II, 1940. So they had the people suppressed then and depressed then, just like they do now from 2008 into 2014. We are suppressed now, losing homes, jobs, cars, money, and depressed now. Is this leading up to World War III? Okay. Where did all that confiscated gold go? In 1933, President Roosevelt ordered that we, the people, turn it in. But as soon as we lost sight of it, we really lost sight of it. And so did many of the people who actually took it from us. It was supposed to be melted down, purified, and then used to forge new gold bullion, which would be stored at the United States Bullion Depository at Fort Knox, Kentucky, whose gold storage facility was constructed in 1936. If you believe the statements on the U.S. Mint website, the facility now houses 147.3 million ounces of gold, although its purity is not revealed. A lot of people, and it's been in the news, a lot of people are aware of this, but apparently the Fort Knox gold could be missing. Where did it go? Allegedly, the Chinese government received nearly 6,000 tungsten core gold bars in 2009. So we paid a bill to China with gold, and they cut it in half and found that it was tungsten core. If I were the Chinese, I would be ticked. Anyways, so previously the price of gold bar had been set in exclusive meetings at the offices of N.M. Nathan, Rothschild and Sons. Whoa! In London. So these Rothschilds who control the Illuminati, which is combined all the lodges of Freemasonry all over the world, hence my series, Freemasonry and Satanism. And they're into the occult. It says it even in this book. They use their astrology charts and remote viewers and seers and psychics to communicate with the other side. And they play when they know things that you don't know. They play the market, they play you, they play us. To our detriment. That's what I believe. What do you believe? Okay, twice a day a small group of 5 men connected to each other in a cold virtual reality via conference call calmly fix the price of gold, a ripple that soon propagates across the world and all gold markets and sets the tone for all gold. So when they decide to take down the world with a new world order, cause riots and mayhem in the United States, like in their Ukraine right now, like in all the countries they did in the Middle East, Egypt, Libya, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa, and now the Ukraine, and many other places. All they have to do is make a phone call. Change the price of gold and start a panic. Who chose them and how? Who put the Rothschilds in charge? Ironically and not surprisingly, the gold cartel is also selling more gold stock than ever before. So if you buy gold stock, remember that. Despite the plausity of the very product that should back each stock transaction. We presently testimony at the Committee Futures Trade Commission, the CFTC, hearings on March 5th, 2010. So present testimony, dropped a bomb on them. A former J.P. Morgan trader told everyone how J.P. Morgan was making money flushing out speculators. So people are investing in gold stocks, and J.P. Morgan is making money, and they're probably worthless paper too. They were making money when everyone else was obviously losing money. So they were laughing at the rest of the world. The whistleblower, Andrew Maguire, and his wife were hit by a car the next day outside of London. So the whistleblower, Andrew Maguire, and his wife were hit by a car the next day outside of London. I guess they wanted to shut them up. There was another coincidence arising from this hearing. First, the live webcast feed of my testimony went dark during the entire testimony. Then Andrew gets hit by a car. Again, just a coincidence? The story went viral on the internet in China, Russia, and across the world, but not here in the United States until the Post story. I go on jpost.com, the Israeli Jerusalem newspaper, and other newspapers in English worldwide, and I read news that they do not tell us here in the USA. And of course there's alternate websites like InfoWars and other websites that supposedly tell us some truths, but you wonder, are they on our side, or is it just being a play to maybe to get us to look at those websites and find out who we are, so they know who's in the know. So remember, even like the Russian Revolution and Germany and China, the first thing they do when they kick off the revolution is they go get all the educated people or people in the know or anybody they consider who would be opposition. They round them up and they kill them. So maybe you want to turn this video off and put earplugs in your ears and blinders on your eyes and see nothing and know nothing. At the same CFTC hearing, one man said there is 50 times more gold traded than is available physically. But then Jeff Christian of the commodities firm CPM Group corrected this statistic on the record. He said that the London bullion market, LBMA, leverages gold 100 to 1, not 50 to 1, meaning that at any one time 100 people demand their physical gold be given them, only one customer's request could be granted. The other 99 customers would have to settle for cash, its price determined by the exchange. With that said, I see now in the supermarket, a loaf of bread can cost $5. This tells you your money's not worth what it was. In the same Post article, Andrew McGuire stated boldly, if you sell something you do not own, then that is fraud. The accountants, TFSI, have committed fraud against We the People for more than 200 years. Isn't it time We the People stood up and peeped at least one word against the men in Rome? The first sphere of influence, are they the men in Rome? Is the Pope and his big world monopoly telling the financier people, the Rothschilds, what to do? The Federal Reserve definitely caused the Great Depression. See, I didn't say it. He said it. By contracting the amount of currency in circulation by 1/3 from 1929 to 1933, Milton Friedman, Nobel laureate in economics. So we know that they did it then, and it seems like in 2014 they're doing it now. Remember, every day when you go to Walmart or anywhere and you go shopping, a lot of the products come from China. And even now, foods, that's a big spoiler there. Rice products and other things, foods. It's cheaper to use the farming people in China to ship food here than for them to have our farmers doing farming here, which is ridiculous. But I suspect when they take down the USA, as is said by many people, not me, look at the alternate websites, I'll show you something now. This is something called the regionalized and adaptive model of the global world system. You can look this up. I'll leave it up here for a minute so you can write it down. Anyways, the regionalized and adaptive model of the global world system, published by the Club of Rome, 1973. So, the world problematic formulated motivation and objectives, formulated by the Club of Rome, is not only global in nature, involving factors traditionally considered unrelated, but also points to the crisis situation. What crisis situation? Well, apparently in 73 they thought there was a crisis, and they want to a computer model of the world economic system has been developed and validated by an extensive set of data. So they know who's going to be working in shoe factories, who's going to be producing food. It's all going to be assigned. Where they're going to have mining, and everybody, when you're tagged and bagged, if you don't get tagged, is going to be a slave eventually, essentially. And they got Group 1, which is Canada and the United States. And Group 3, for example, Australia, Israel, New Zealand. Group 8, you can look this up on the internet. Guam, Ivory Coast, Kenya, mainly Africa. Group 9, Malaysia, India. And then Group 10, North Vietnam, People's Republic of China, Mongolia, and North Korea. Anyways, they plan on divvying up the world like this. Back in 1973, you say, Rick, you're crazy. Well, I got more news for you. I'm going to do these books. The Limits of Growth by the Club of Rome in around 1969, 1970. So when you wonder why they have all the charts, this is for all the people that are in power. They get them to read these books and they buy this stuff as gospel. You see cycles and all that. So they spent a lot of money sponsoring the publishing of this book. This was by Donella and Dennis Meadows. So that's why they're using the global warming, global cooling, climate change. These are excuses to bring about their control, and that map of the new world, that's gonna be their solution. So they've done this 45 years ago, planned our demise today into a slavery type thing. And they had more propaganda too. They got one here called the population bomb. And so they say they calculated, and here they calculated that the whole thing would collapse in 2000, as everybody's aware, that we'd never make it this far. So people in positions of power have either ignored the problem or have recommended solutions that are inadequate to scope and proven failures. The Catholic Church recommends the rhythm method and contraceptive. So they want to control the birth rate. And that, my friends, is another reason for the huge homosexual billion-dollar agenda, bisexual agenda. Sex is okay, adultery agenda. The family values are thrown out the windows because families generate families. Mom and dad and kids. They want that gone. All right, let me go back to the book. So look here, it says the Federal Reserve definitely caused the Great Depression by contracting the amount of currency in circulation by 1/3 in 1929 to 1933. And remember, they did all that for when and everybody goes broke. These banksters have special persons in power, like the Rockefellers. And when everybody loses everything, somebody gets everything, and they do it in these big holding companies, and they get land and factories. And so the Illuminati henchmen and their minions, the top people at the Freemasonries and other lodges and Rosicrucians and Jesuits, and it's just hundreds of these groups. It says here, my dear reader, the bankers within their own walls have been in charge far too long, aiding the House of Rothschild and its higher authority. Is that Rome, the Pope, the Church? the first sphere of influence in Rome. It says it there. They've ridden roughshod over us in the most evil ways, something they've done since 1541. Our ancestors had to put up with the same load of manure too. Unfortunately for them, they lacked the modern communication tools we have today, the very tools that pose such a threat to the TSSI, this first sphere of influence, and their global plan for we the people, cell phones, World Wide Web, email, satellite phones, Skype, MySpace, Twitter, Facebook. Alright, so it says here, for over the past 65 years, TSA has engaged in numerous gold scandals that even today have not been fully investigated, let alone revealed. The theft, concealment, storage, and distribution of Japan's gold looted from various Asian countries. The Bank of England's transfer of the Czechs' gold reserves to the Nazis was orchestrated by U.S. lawyer and soon-to-be Secretary of State John Foster Dulles and law firm Sullivan and Cromwell. Surreptitiously escorting Martin Bormann, Hitler's private secretary and the head of the Nazi Party, Chancellor, not to mention a Rothschild-installed agent out of Germany on the final night and days of the war, so the Allies, the first sphere of influence, could recover all the Nazi gold and wealth. Most Americans have no idea what's going on and don't care so long as they are entertained and fed. America is now the biggest troublemaker in the world, Israel's second. My concern is, folks, when they decide not to entertain us anymore and not feed us anymore, what then? With that said, let me go have another little thing here. I discussed in the other video, part 1 of this book, that Oprah, Bill Clinton to receive the Medal of Freedom Award. And I mentioned there were a bunch of other people here who received it. Others who received the medal, Daniel, former senator from Hawaii, World War II veteran, Ben Bradley, former executive of the Washington Post, the newspaper coverage of Watergate, Sally Ride, the first woman to fly in space, Roger Lugar, the senator from Indiana, Gloria Steinem. So, Ernie Banks, baseball player, Loretta Lynn, Daniel Kahneman, psychologist who won the Nobel Prize. You know, Obama just got elected first president the first time, and he got a Nobel Peace Prize. For what? I think he's competing with Bush in wars, murder and mayhem. Dean Smith. So my point is to this, they got this medal. Here's my page here. Here it is from my hand. They got this medal. Presidential Medal of Freedom. What is that? Now again, I say, look, there's 13 stars there. 13. There's the dark circle, which is the moon. Which is, the gold thing is the sun. The moon in front of the sun. The 5-pointed star, and then of course you have the pentagon in the background. Remember those things. So I went on the internet and I looked up Pentagon and witchcraft. And so let's have a little fun here. There's the star. There's the 2 lines, the first moon, and then behind it the second line, the sun. And there's a picture of a moon. These are things I found on witchcraft sites. Again. It's like 2 faces there, whichever way you do it. One of the military buildings look like the Freemasonry symbol there. wonder if that's the Israeli Supreme Court. What to remember that. These are satanic symbols you can see on any witchcraft website or Pentagon website or witchcraft number 13. And you know, the symbol for the homosexual gay thing is, of course, the rainbow. So there's your rainbow colors, and it's all satanic. It's sexually natured, and of course the global population bomb thing. And like we said before, there's 13 stars there, which are in the shape of a six-pointed star, which is the Star of David, King Solomon's ring, which could call forth demons. Look it up. Don't believe me. So anyways, 13 stars, and there you go. 31-313, Day of the Witch. Again, you can see the five-pointed star and the circle. And of course, 13 stars on this Presidential Medal of Freedom. Remember that. 13 stars. Friday the 13th. They could have had 20 stars on that. 15. 12. Like a dozen eggs. Don't forget the Pentagon. Fits right in there. And then, of course, these are just off of witches' websites and Pentagon Evil and number 13. Again, I don't make this stuff. I just go online. You can check it out yourself. It's fascinating. And then, of course, they have the star, the circles, the moon, the all-seeing eye, the candlesticks. These are, and this, you know, like rosary beads that Christians pray and look at. These are witches' beads that I guess they pray to Lucifer. There's 13 beads there. Look it up on the website. I thought this one was funny. They got the little witch riding the broom. So, are we saying that Oprah and Bill Clinton and all those people, can we agree that it certainly looks like they got an occultic satanic medal, not a presidential medal of freedom? Although, you know, you wonder what religion the presidents really are religious about, and as we've discussed before, most presidents have been proven to belong to the Masonic lodges, who already, in my information, Lucifer and Osiris and the Egyptian gods are their deity. You got the snake. Again, this is on witches' websites. The Ankh in the background, that's an Egyptian. See that circle on the top with like a cross on the bottom? And then again, somebody made this video with the star and the two lines and circles. Or at the Pentagon. This is a pentagon, an esoteric symbol as it should be seen when in positive mode. However, when reversed 180 degrees as seen below, this conveys negativity similar to the reverse SWAT sticker used by the Nazis. It is also the inside of the pentagram is a pentagon as demonstrated below. So when you look at this, the pentagon here, see it? In red. And there at the pentagon itself would fit inside that, as this picture shows. And then, of course, you can see how the star fits in there. Notice how that looks upside down. That almost looks like an alien upside down. There's Lucifer. Look at that. Looks like an alien. I wonder. Witch's thing. The symbol of witchcraft is the pentagon. I didn't make this up. Go on the witchcraft sites. I just investigated. When I saw they got this medal, I said, wait a minute. Where have I seen that before? Number 13. The dollar bill has it as the great eye of Lucifer. Look this up on the number 13, Satanic 13 site. Images, Yahoo or Google. And it's 13 layers of bricks on the pyramid. 13 illuminating stars. Like on here. It's on the dollar right there too. So there's 13 arrows, 13 leaves. A lot of things with 13 on there. And again, as you can see, the moon, the sun, the star. Just like on the medal they got. And they got another witchcraft symbol. 8 worlds. The Wiccan read, fulfill, and it will harm none, do as you will. That was Aleister Crowley, the wickedest man alive, who was contacting the devil, and he said, and he bragged about killing and eating children, believe it or not, and he said, do as you will. That's one of the models that everybody has now who's told not to believe in God. And again, you can see the moon and the star. Here's a Ouija board thing. Just look at the star, look at the circles, look at the lines. Look at the star, look at the circles, look at the lines. These are moon stones that witches use. And yes, there's 13 of them. 3, 6, 9, 10, 13. See the moon? And George Bush belongs to the skull and bones. This is a witch's symbols here. See the skull and bones? Apparently, the Knights Templar, who apparently found some stuff in Jerusalem when they were supposed to be guarding the people on pilgrimage to the place of Jesus Christ's birthplace. Anyways, they wound up very rich, and then the Rome Church got jealous and tried to kill them. And apparently, those Knights Templar later became the Freemasonry societies, which when in 1776, the same year the United States was made, the Rothschilds organized and had ordered his minions to organize all the lodges all over the world into one organization, i.e. the Illuminati. And so it all started out, and they were the pirates. So pirates are running our world right now, and you know pirates like gold, the bounty. I wonder if they got it all in caves somewhere. And sex is a big thing on TV, like Miley Cyrus. It's all satanic. Make no bones about it. Anything that's opposite of the 10 Commandments is what it's all about. Goals for a witch. Know yourself, know your craft, learn and grow, apply knowledge with wisdom, achieve balance, keep your words in good order, keep your thoughts in good order, celebrate life, attune with the cycles of the earth, breathe and eat correctly, exercise thy body, meditate, and honor the goddess. It's like the Statue of Liberty is the goddess and God. And like I said, the pyramid on the dollar has 13 steps, layers. And key symbols, pentagon. So you got scientific people. The mystery of how long the star's legs are. Anyways, you got scientists who have figured out there's a lot of mystery in this occultic stuff. And of course here, the number 13 is the Death Tarot card. Oprah, Bill Clinton, Presidential Medal of Freedom. I say it's a satanic medal. You see all the other medals the witches have. And here's another one, The Satanic Witch, by this guy. You can get that book and look it up. And the Egyptian Ankh, like on the dollar bill, is the pyramid, the see an eye. And snakes. So again, just my point is, who's running this country? Occultic people, apparently. And they got this Medal of Freedom. I think if you look at the symbolism, it's pretty clear what it is. Anyways, let's get back to this book. Hope you enjoyed my little photo shoot, my opinion, my observation. And if you think I'm wrong and you look it up, look at the bottom of my video, send me an email, rickmiracle@yahoo.com or rickmiracle.com, like it's a miracle. In short, we're not in the Great Recession, stated blithely on every first sphere of influence owned TV network. So the news and everybody is not telling us we're on the edge of the cliff. We are now in a major depression in the United States, quite unlike anything this country has ever seen, and it will take us years to recover. If we rely on the historical record of the first sphere of influence to guide us, we can also expect another major war that will probably be started by Israel and the U.S. against Iran or Arab neighbors. It could be Russia over the Ukraine issue. But you can be sure that it's intentional, it was planned, and it's meant to drag the U.S. people into it so that they can take control, maybe martial law, and at the end of the war, we will live in a different world than we live in before the war started, which is the whole reason for the war. So they faked it. It's a setup. It's a false flag. But who's going to say, I'm not going to go fight when the president declares war? They'll call you a traitor, a coward. They intend to kill you. It's my opinion. And apparently we still have a right of free speech so far in the USA. I don't know how long that'll last. Alright, the recent false flag assassination plot against the Saudi ambassador to the U.S. is a harbinger of the coming war with Iran, all orchestrated by the first sphere of influence. So, Rome wants to spread it. Well, Rome wants to have. Catholic means universal, by the way. Catholic Church, universal religion. Catholic means universal. So the Catholic Church wants a universal religion, and behind the scenes is controlling all the puppets, presidents and leaders, to bring about a universal religion. Apparently, I guess we could say satanic in nature from what we are observing on the Pentagon and the dollar bill and TV and movies and Hunger Games and Miley Cyrus and the Modern Family TV series and 2.5 Men where Charlie gets a prostitute every show, and Seinfeld had a different girl in his bed every show, almost. So if you watch what your kids are learning on cartoons and what they've been learning in school, they're changing the world from God's version, which is basically obey the Ten Commandments, to the opposite of the Ten Commandments. And they get to murder, mayhem, and rob and kill everybody because that's the way they like to live. And we people don't count. We're nothing more than cattle to be slaughtered. To them, I believe. What do you believe? I hate to get emotional, but, I figure, again, like I said in my last video, we can't fight these people. We can't go rioting in the street and getting violent and killing people. It's wrong. Whatever you do, that's wrong. I mean, you're not going to get off this planet alive anyways. You're going to die even at old age of 100. And you're going to go before your Maker, and you're going to be judged by your actions. So the one way to stop these people, or getting these medals, Bill Clinton, and Monica, he gets the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is a satanic medal. Now that fits the Monica and Bill situation. A satanic medal. So like I said before, June 15th, and everybody decided to take a day off. I don't care if it's Sunday, whatever day. Everybody just stayed home. Nobody on the highway. What? Remember that movie When the World Stood Still? That's what we would have. The whole people, these satanic people, would have to realize they're caught. And we, the people, say no. So if June 15th, if everybody just decided from California to North Carolina, Chicago to Texas, nobody anywhere in the United States is going anywhere except for emergency personnel, nuclear power plants, hospitals, etc. Use your judgment, common sense on that. Now basically, everybody just doesn't spend a dime. Don't use any gas. Have a backyard barbecue with your family. They would know that when they see nobody's moving. And then next month, if they didn't get the message, we'll give them a week of a shutdown. Who are we harming? Nobody. Oh, except they're big corporations that own everything. That would. And I suggest too, also, that people go get $1,000 or $2,000 in 20s or whatever, and try to stop using credit cards and banks. And if they did shut down the whole country, we would all be sitting there all across the country with $1,000 in our thing, and we could still buy and sell things with each other. We don't need their stores. We don't need their banks. We don't need anything they have. We could just start buying and selling from each other. But you're going to need 1,000. We could all go on the next day after they crash everything and look at them and laugh and say, now we all got money. We'll pay our people in cash, we'll buy things, and we'll all work it out. We don't need those banksters. That's my opinion. But they don't want you to think like I think. Let's see here. Closer to home, we will see more restrictive legislation along the lines of the Patriot Act of 2001 and Homeland Security Act of 2002 that further dismantles and wrecks our beloved Constitution and thus our rights as Americans. So I'm not the only one who thinks like this. The guy who wrote this book thinks like this, and I'm just doing a book report. I'm the guy who's read over 100 books, and I thought I would save you 5, 6, 7, 8 years of time that it takes to do that, and watch a few videos. Tell your friends, don't believe everything I say. Go look it up. If you believe what I say at face value, you're not helping me, you're not helping you. Go online, use Booksider, new book site, buy this book, read it, look up what he says. That's what I've been doing for 10 years. Verify, verify, verify. And no violence, and if they do shut it down, all we all have to do is stand there in our driveway and nobody gets on the highway and no panicking, and just go about our business and grow some vegetables. And there doesn't have to be a disaster. They can stop everything and we can just sit there and laugh and go about our lives. You might recall the impressive Patriot Act, which weighed in a whopping 132 pages, not including all the supporting material, and was allegedly a response to the Stage 911 attack, which had occurred only a month before. I don't know if you've ever been to court or any kind of government action, but it takes them years to get anything done. And they had this Patriot Act report all prepared. If you read the Act, you'll be struck by the extreme detail, thoughtfulness, thoroughness, in an action that clearly took much longer than a month to research, design, write, discuss among members of Congress, pass, and finally implement. All these actions were performed by the U.S. government, took just over a month. They can't even get the Obama health care plan to work. And that's been years. But they popped this thing up in 30 days. It was very intricate, controlling, thoughtful. We the people are in trouble. This bill has been prepared several years in advance of the 9/11 attacks, considering how long it has taken to research, write, and debate the health care bill of 2010, several years. And who would be charged with covering up or disseminating false and misleading information about all this mess? The big media is owned by them. They're not going to tell us the truth. Savvy and frustrated Americans are turning to alternate media, much of it underground, well off the radar. And again, I'm just skipping paragraphs here. I'm not reading an entire book, so you need to get the book. I can't read this whole book. They trickle in a few days, but that trickle will soon lead to a flood of as good people begin to educate themselves about the ill deeds of the sphere of first influence. So again, as I say, the pyramid that's under the control of apparently people who worship Lucifer. We've got the Zionists doing their thing in Israel, which Israel was created because the land was given to the Rothschild family, who controls all of that and owns a lot of the land in Israel. And that was done in World War II, or tried to be done in World War I, with the Balfour Agreement, B-A-L-F-O-U-R, that the leaders in the UK had, in a letter, had promised the Rothschilds the Palestinian land if they financed Britain, the UK, United Kingdom, get it? Kingdom, United, the Empire, where the sun never sets, in the war with Germany. But at the end of World War I, the UK backed out and wouldn't give the Arabs land to the Rothschilds. So hence we needed World War II, so the League of Nations was dissolved. And then we had the United Nations, and they did get their land. And so it was all thoughtfully planned. Just like the Patriot Act popped up 30 days after the 9/11. It's all thoughtfully planned. Just like these books I showed you here. Oops. The Population Bomb, The Limits to Growth, 1969-1970. This thing here where they're going to regionalize an adaptive model for the world, 1973, where they're going to slice and dice up the country. And so that everybody, it's like football teams, each country will have to compete with each other and probably war with each other to control populations. So they will fabricate disputes, and if you need to get rid of a few million people, you'll war with somebody else who needs to get rid of a few million people, and then you'll watch your people get killed and have a lot of fun, I guess, if you're an evil chess player. And then when the war is all over, you have less people, and you go about your satanic evil life. That sounds terrible. Fareed Zakaria, Glenn Beck, and so-called conspiracy theorists like Jesse Ventura, Alex Jones, too are owned and controlled by this first sphere of influence, spouting out mountains of half-truths that lure people in. So I like Alex Jones, but sometimes I wonder, is that to lure people in? But I do know on the InfoWars website there is a lot of valuable information that is disseminated, like the Ukraine thing. They sent in instigators and to start up the whole trouble. Remember, Russia wasn't cooperating with the issue in Syria, so apparently the NATO groups and probably the first sphere of influence from Rome or whoever said, hey, we have to stir this trouble up in Russia because they won't cooperate. So they punished their own, like Abraham Lincoln or Kennedy, who was an insider, but apparently they had a conscience attack and wanted to do the right thing and create money in our own country, both Lincoln and Kennedy, without interest, which would have set the United States free. So, of course, they were killed. So even their own insider people, they have to kill when they don't get what they want them to do. When enough of we the people have been lured in by the surprisingly easy credits, mere loans, and second and third mortgages at low interest rates, this first sphere of influence then severely contracts the money supply and calls in these loans and mortgages, and everybody gets caught with their pants down. The result of this quantitative easing, first few people can afford to pay off these loans and mortgages, and so they lose the very thing that they were trying to protect: businesses, jobs, homes, real estate, and personal property. The whole scenario soon descends into a Great Depression, which they have done over and over and over and over. All the criteria are in place for the great collapse that is ramping up the now, will climax and last for years. They say around 2014, with the aftermath being much worse and lasting longer than what we're seeing in current atmosphere, other than educating ourselves with the accurate truth what we, the people, can do to protect ourselves. It may not happen, but if it doesn't happen, it's going to be because people wake up, and the people, the perpetrators, are going to have to back off. Hence, that's why I do these videos and speak my piece, which is apparently protected by the Constitution, which they're trying to do away with. And if they do cause a revolution, you can bet that the Constitution will be not part of the new reality. There's your new reality. An evil world. It makes you wonder about reading. If you read the Bible and you know what it says, it certainly seems like everything's on schedule. William Pitt, who was one of the greatest men England ever produced, was the Chancellor of England. The government being in great need of supplies, they approached the Bank of England, which was a closed corporation, a private enterprise with which the English government had nothing in the world to do. Bank of England now. The bank represented mostly at the time by the Rothschilds. So the Rothschilds owned the Bank of England. It's like they owned the Federal Reserve, just like Bank of America and all those things. Just the name, they fooled the people. I'll go do business with the Bank of America because it's American. Yeah, find out who owns it. All right. This was the beginning of the idea of issuing a public debt and predicating money credit with it. Subsequently realizing his mistake, William Pitt said of the inauguration of the first national bank in the United States under Alexander Hamilton, "Let the American people go into debt funding schemes and banking systems, and from that hour their boasted independence will be a mere phantom." Okay, get the book, and that would have been on page 70. Skyrocketing gold prices, silver will follow, high inflation, approaching inflation, poor housing market, runaway foreclosures, seizures, high unemployment, great numbers of illegal aliens crossing the border to attend and work at our schools. All this is costing money. We're borrowing from China, which we're going deeper into debt. And I got nothing against people from other countries coming and going. I think everything could be managed a much more Christian-like, church-like, anything but satanic-like. It's a satanic nature and a deception that we're all in trouble for. You know, I like Mexico. I like Costa Rica. I like Central America. I like people from Brazil and Chile and Colombia, Argentina. If you've met any of these people, they're wonderful. Clear and present destruction of essential means of communication. You know, they shut down our internet and our cell phones. They can turn us off whenever they feel like it. So you need to get, if the thing crashed tomorrow, do you have a water filter system? I bought one yesterday. And, get some extra of the cartridges. If you're used to drinking spring water, not tap water, or you start drinking puddle water without cleaning it, people are just going to get diseased. And food, what does it cost? I calculated maybe $100 can get you a month's supply of emergency food. So $600. Bags of rice, cans of beans, all kinds of stuff. You don't think about toilet paper, toothpaste. If they did shut down the country, and if everybody had the simple 6-month supply, we could take our country back. We could reorganize ourselves. But you need to have this stuff, because you're gonna go knock down somebody else's door and kill them to get the food from them and their kids that they stocked up on. That's not right. Everybody should try to stop doing the crazy things, wasting your money. Get a cash supply stocked up in your house. Look at your resources for water. Do you really need electricity? You could live without it, like camping out at your own house. How about a barbecue grill? Have charcoal on hand. Or propane, get 2 tanks, $25. Get 4 tanks, that's $100. They shut the whole system down. You're sitting there, boiling water on your barbecue grill, which is another way to purify water. And your cans of beans and your rice, and you're cooking a meal. It may not be the best food in the world, but you could mix a can of beans and a can of corn and a can of rice in a big pot, and you could survive quite nicely. Salt and pepper, some seasoning. We could make it. You could hang clothes after you wash them on a line to dry. We could survive. We can't survive if we don't think about it. The general public lethargy and severe ignorance about these important affairs. That's the problem. Sadly, it won't do much good to talk with your so-called elected officials like congressmen, senators, because they're part of the grand scheme, and that is destroying America. Again, like moving all the jobs to China. They have a plan. You don't think they have a plan, do you? These books were published, and there's many more, by the way. The population bomb. See, what a lot of people don't realize, after World War II, there was here was the population line, like right here. And at the end of the world, a lot of men and women got married and had 6 and 7 and 8 kids for 20 years. And then they stopped during the hippie age, and it goes back to 1 or 2 children per person. So you had this huge population bubble from 100 million, which went to 300 million. What I'm trying to say is, calculate 60 years out for these people born, and of course their retirement age, and 80 years out, 70 years out, and you're in where we are right now. 100 million people are going to die in the U.S. of old age right now. All those people who were born. So there isn't a population bomb. That's why they're allowing all the immigrants from all over the world to come to the U.S. The United States government knows half the population in America is older people right now, hence the Obama health care package ban and all this other stuff. They know that everybody's going to die, and all those two couples who had 6 and 7 kids for 20 years, 1946, 56, and 66, if you do the math, go on the internet, you can check this out. So it went from 100 million to 300 million, and you go to today, all those 200 million people, or 150 million people, are, well, they're walking around or riding around in wheelchairs and in hospitals and ill and cancer and all this stuff. They're dying off left and right. Stuff they don't tell you. So there isn't, in the United States, a population bomb. It's just the opposite. We have a deficit. But, again, they moved all the jobs. We're not producing goods for them. And as you already know, they think they own the world, and them and their buddies, the higher-ups, the royalty, each have an assigned territory and have to increase the efficiency of their manufacturing and production of goods. So, in other words, they have to manage their assets, which apparently we are assets to them. We are not shareholders. And like I said, around in 1856 or something, they did away with the U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and they formed a corporation, the government of the United States of America. Look it up. So a lot of people don't know that. It's all pretend that you're under the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and all that. Sadly, it won't take much to talk to your elected officials because they're part of the grand scheme that is destroying America today. Part of the great inside job that is clandestinely eating away at the very fabric of our existence and foundation of our country. And so they're bringing us this. Like it says, when we have a sitting president signing international agreements that strip away our constitutional rights, like trying to do a treaty right now with the United Nations, is trying to get the United States to sign a treaty that agrees that the U.S. government will disarm the USA people. So the United Nations treaty will supersede our non-existent Constitution, Bill of Rights. And so why does the United Nations want to take away the guns? Well, apparently people will probably be opposed to this. And the regionalized and adaptive model, and these are the tools that convince and fool people to believe like global warming on Mondays and global cooling on Tuesdays and climate change on Wednesdays. And then on Thursdays you get a heavy dose of gay marriage legislation and etc., etc. It's pretty obvious to see once you start looking. Okay, we have a sitting president signing international agreements to strip our constitutional rights, increasing taxes on the moderately wealthy, not the super rich, mind you, and pursuing a communist-style policy on behalf of the TFSI's first sphere of influence. Then we know we're in deep trouble, must act decisively, and to do so in mass. Like I said, if everybody just, like in June 15, didn't go anywhere and we acted in mass, they would get it. Notice I added en masse. We the people can only act collectively. Individuals who blow the whistles at their workplace are summarily dismissed, worse, murdered. I can't even tell you how many people have been murdered who knew inside things. Book publishers, researchers, 911 witnesses. It's happening all the time. For they knew and tried to expose, but a large group of citizens is tough to corral, let alone murder. I suggest on my videos I make you please download them, make copies. Please don't sell them. Give them to people like I'm giving this to you. Before they shut the internet down, and let's hope they never do. Let's hope that I'm 100% wrong. Who would be happier than me? Nobody. I would be so happy to be wrong. But I didn't write this book. I didn't make this book. I didn't create this stuff. I didn't get this satanic medal called the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I'm just an observant American citizen. And a lot of people from all over the world that I have talked to, they're aware of this stuff. So download my videos, put them on CDs, whatever, collect the whole series, make a copy, have a party, sit down and laugh at me. I don't care, but listen to the information, take some notes, and write a book. I'm giving you the short cut path to do it. You don't have to filter all this stuff out. I did it for you, and it took me almost 10 years. You can come up to speed quickly, and all your friends. Anyways, if everybody just stayed home on June 15th in 2014 and didn't go to work unless it's an emergency, like you work in a hospital or a nuclear power plant, etc., and that would get the attention of these corporate monsters. Most cannot afford to buy gold now, let alone 6,000 an ounce. So the best plan for you is to hold on to any gold, silver, platinum, precious metals, gems. Not be tempted to sell them to the gold buyers that have sprung up in many corners of the USA. So they're giving everybody worthless paper right now and getting their gold. Why? These gold buyers are tied to a vast network that feeds its bounty up the ladder to the House of Rothschilds and their first sphere of influence. We, the people, have immense power over the first sphere of influence, and those in power do not want us to know this fact. It would take so little on the part of the good citizens to resist the destruction mechanisms of the House of Rothschild. The first step is to educate we the people about the destructive force, then suggest important options and oppose and defeat this. We're almost done here. Do not sell your home. That's an asset. If the money goes down, you own your home. Cut back and eliminating on spending. Pay off your bills. I have no credit card debt anymore. I don't owe anything on my truck. I told you I lost my house, my condo, my land. But I don't owe anybody anything. And I have, you need to do the same thing. Pay off that stuff. Owe nothing, if you can. And keep $1,000, $2,000 in a vault, in a safe deposit box or something, or somewhere. In a spare tire in your car. Who's going to look there? Anyways, pay off all bills, and especially with the things with weapons, too. If you have any weapons, you don't want the kids to shoot each other accidentally. So wrap them up in plastic bags and bury them. They're safe, but you know where they are. Got it? Get some carpool, work with your friends, share expenses with neighbors. If you're older and you got a child that's married or something, and their kids have left the home, tell them to come move in with you. Go move in with them and share expenses. Make life easier for each other. Have 18 months worth of food supplies. I'm saying at least 6 months, but 18 would be nice. If you live near the coast, have a plan. Beware of when the U.S. experiences hyperinflation. Pay attention to this stuff, what's going on, now that you know. Have an emergency plans so you can go into the wilderness. Like I said, think about how you're going to have clean water. Do you have seeds? I mean, it's $25. You can buy a bag of seeds at the Ace Hardware or something. Buy firearms. You need to, and again, I don't like the fact that SWAT teams will come in your house and beat you up and get your guns. But if they're in a plastic bag buried somewhere with ammunition, maybe wouldn't harm anybody, and they're just out of the way. Remove your deposits from banks. Demand cash. Anyways, be reasonable. Just have a few grand on hand in cash. If the whole system goes down, we could all, like I said, we could all trade with each other with the cash. And when gold becomes scarce, so will be in demand. All right, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just reading these books, and that's what this guy said he's doing. Throughout the history, the messenger of bad news has been the first casualty. Worse, the second casualty has been the news itself. If your aim is to understand what happens behind the scenes of the U.S. government, you must embrace some new information that will be difficult to chew, let alone swallow, and assimilate within you. That's called normalcy bias, by the way. When you learn such devastating things, your natural inclination is to reject it. It's almost surreal to me if I go to the ballpark and the kids are batting the ball and the families are in the bleachers in a nice, beautiful downtown settings. It's so surreal when I'm holding in my hand a newspaper, and it says the president or some big high up in Russia is threatened to nuke the USA. And then I go helicopters over in Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya and all those countries, Ukraine. You know, if you can go on YouTube, you know, you got soldiers up there machine gunning people. All caught on video. It's horrible. And as a earthling, as a person with a soul in your body, not these people, the evil souls. Look at that, the two faces, isn't that weird? I did it with several of these and they all do that. We have souls and we're answerable when we leave this life. And if you want to graduate from whatever reality the soul world is, which is the real soul, this planet Earth is a temporary thing, nobody gets off the planet alive. But your soul is eternal, and if you want to graduate on that sphere, I guess it matters what you do on this sphere. Just saying. Worth thinking about doing the right thing. For example, if a couple is coming up your driveway, a little 6-year-old little girl, after the collapse, if there's a collapse, and your wife looks at you and goes, "Oh, honey, we can't let them up. We only have enough for ourselves." You know, so you get your shotgun out, and they refuse to go away, and you shoot them. And then a week later, some tougher people come up and kill you, but you wind up before the Maker. And God's going to go, "Why did you kill those people?" I'm just saying. You know, it's better to invite them up and feed them. And even if you run out sooner, I believe in the higher power of God. That's what I'm trying to say. And He takes care of those who take care of themselves and others. Whatever you shall do to the least of mine, I shall do to you, or some religious text like that. I believe that stuff. And again, who's going to get off this earth alive? It matters what you do. The situation that you get in is almost like an education or a test God is preparing you for. And again, if everybody stayed home on June 15th and we all told these people what they're doing, they can't do it without us. This criminal activity of martial law and shooting people and imprisoning people. And if we don't cooperate, they can't create their little world map. All the while, they're removing our constitutional rights and freedoms and liberty, separating us from our hard-earned money, taxes, and bankruptcy, and suicide, kicking us out of our homes, stripping us of any sense of dignity remaining after such wholesale liquidation, all in the name of world domination. I always believe that best security is anonymity. Don't tell anyone you have gold or silver, not even to your friends. In the collapse of the German Republic in the 1920s, neighbors ratted out fellow neighbors for a mere loaf of bread. Remember, it's not so much what happens to you, but what you do about what happens to you. Don't rat out your friends. Even then, beware. The first sphere of influence had the Hitler Youth. They got into our youth's minds here in the USA. Can you say Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, church, civic groups? That a Nazi regime employed young groups? You should watch your kids' cartoons. You would be surprised what they're being taught and told. Mind control. Anyways, spy on their parents, friends, neighbors, and report all suspicious activities. They already have things like that now in the United States. Tell on your friends. So you don't think it could happen, huh? These collapses. I'm just going to make this short now. The Revolutionary War, the continuing War of Independence, that was fabricated and caused. The Old Hickory, the War of 1812. Over the next 1812 now. Over the next 20 years, as America fell deeper in debt, many original supporters of the bank dropped from its ranks and voiced concern over the true nature of the private central bank. 1812. So what did the bad people do about it? Owned and controlled by a group of men in London. Remember, this is a previous situation, not like the Great Depression, but another one that nobody knows about. It appeared that the new dissenters that America had not, in fact, won the War of Independence at all. Quite the opposite. The United States was now firmly in the iron grip of England. This is in 1812. Did people know this stuff? When the first bank's charter was not renewed in U.S. in 1811, Nathan Mayer Rothschild reportedly ordered that the Americans be severely punished. This is 1812. This is in this book. Hence the War of 1812, which the Rothschild-controlled British Army on August 24th, 1814, destroyed both the White House and Capitol. They don't teach you that in school, do they? Among the other government buildings. 2 years later, President James Madison capitulated, and the Second Bank of the United States was established, probably owned by the Rockefellers, thus frustrating the U.S. continued attempts to dislodge the poisonous roots of the House of Rothschild from the American soil. And then in 1913, President Woodrow Wilson is the man responsible for allowing the House of Rothschild to take full control over his office and permitting their agent Paul Warburg to establish formal laws that enacted the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank and the federal income tax. In his book, The New Freedom, A Call for the Emancipation of the Generous Energies of the People, Wilson laminated over his ill-conceived decision to support Warburg in establishing the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States. So Wilson knew he had made a huge mistake. The Great Depression, the period the U.S. and the world history provides an excellent example of how the House of Rothschild first expands the nation's money supply by printing billions of dollars, dumping them into an economy, and then after a period of time, calling in all loans and credits as collapsing the economy. Starting in October 29, 1929, also known as Black Tuesday, we the people lost our businesses, property, jobs, homes, land, life savings, much more, faith in our own government to protect us from the ravages of the health of Rothschild. So they did it before, so who really owns your gold? These people own your gold. They control your life. They can make a phone call and destroy the system. They can fabricate some event overseas and declare World War III. And we will all be pawns in the game and pitted against somebody else to shoot them or them shoot us. Maybe Canadian troops, Russian troops, Chinese troops, whoever. Will be here to police us, and then they're going to get the spoils. They might wind up having some Chinese family owning your house, or Russian family, or something. I don't know, whoever they're going to, where they can make money. So that's this book, and then of course there's that document that they made. It's a pretty nasty document called the Canadian-U.S. Civil Defense Plan. He put a copy of that document in this book, so if you buy it, you can read the agreement between the United States and Canada. And again, if you check out the news, you will find out that there's a lot of people reporting Russians and Chinese troops in the United States practicing and exercising and getting used to our streets, our civilization, our language. And why? Why? And I showed you, if you look at the President's Freedom Medal there, and it doesn't take a genius to look at some of these pictures I showed you. There's the star and the Pentagon and all that. There's the Pentagon and the 13 stars and the big star and the moon and the sun. Don't tell me it doesn't look a lot similar. You know, different placement. You know, the Pentagon's bigger than the star. The star is bigger than the Pentagon. But it's right there. So they gave Bill Clinton and Oprah and all those people a satanic medal. Is that not just a little disturbing? Anyways, as I always say, thank you for watching my video. I read the books, I report to you. I don't want you to believe me. I don't want you to be violent. I use your brain. I believe prayer works. There is a God. These people worship the devil guy. They're into witchcraft. They got their own version of prayer beads. They're not kidding. It's the snake. It's like in the Bible. 13. So pray. Be a good person. Treat others how you want to be treated. It might be a wise idea to look at your resources and contemplate how You could live for 6 months if you had to stay at home and read some books, and not don't go out there into the insanity if there ever is a situation. Or in plastic bags to bury things you don't want to be found, including probably gold and stuff. What if they decide to pull all the gold from the people in mandatory? What if they crash the dollar and everybody has to go turn in their U.S. dollars for this new money? Let's get yourself stamped with the ID tag, 666. Then you're a prisoner forever. So people might have to resist. En masse, they can't do anything. So everybody has to resist together. Wouldn't it be nice if everybody just stayed home June 15th? Send them a message. Everybody got the word out. Stop. We don't want this new world. We don't want this. Anyways, it's rickmiracle@yahoo.com is my email. That's miracle, spelled like it's a miracle. And rickmiracle.com is my website. So rickmiracle@yahoo.com is my email. If you have any information to add that will help me in my research, you know any interesting details I should know, there you go. Thank you, and have a great day. And use your brain. Think.